Good. All right. So we are recording. Here we go. So welcome everyone again. This is A360 Collaboration for Revit. This is Anta, and our agenda today will be a quick presentation on who we are as a company, your questions on what is collaboration for Revit, why do we have it, how does it work, what are the system requirements, and the pros and cons. Real quick, don't forget, mute your mic, so that way I don't have any background noise, okay? And then we'll actually get into the demonstration of the software. I can still hear some background noise, so those of you who have a mic turned on, can you mute your mic temporarily? All right, we'll try to do the presentation. For those of you who are logged into the presentation, please double check your audio settings and make sure your mic is not turned on because I can hear your background noise. And so Repro Products, who we are, we've been in the business for well over 35 years. We are quite diversified. We have multiple partnerships and certifications with Xerox and Canon and OSE and Faro and obviously Autodesk. And several other companies as well. We are also Bluebeam Review software resellers, and I am an actual Bluebeam certified instructor. We have a huge catalog that we created last year that has all of our services. So if you ever are in the area, you can pick up a catalog and it'll give you a laundry list of everything that we provide. We have a wide format printing division where we sell and support all the wide format machines. We do all the printing production for the AEC industry in the area. We are obviously an Autodesk partner, Gold partner, and we sell and support all of our Autodesk products. We also have a reality capture laser scanning division that we rent out and provide services for 3D reality capturing and point cloud capture of the existing environment. We also have another company called The Color Spot that is located in Marietta, and they specialize in vehicle graphics, signage, wayfaring, things like that. So for those of you who are local, if you get a chance, stop by the office and ask anybody to stop what they're doing for a tour. We'll give you a tour of the facilities and answer any questions that you might have. So let's see, what is A360 Collaboration for Revit? Let's go ahead and watch this video and go from there.
There's a new reality to building design. These days, it's more important than ever that architects, design professionals, engineers, and project stakeholders can communicate and collaborate effectively. However, tools like email, SharePoint, FTP, and cloud storage sites create data silos, leading to miscommunication and inefficiencies in project delivery. Design teams need to be able to efficiently work on the same models and also share models and designs with the entire team, including non-Revit designers such as project managers, principals, consultants, and clients. But until now, the challenge has been how to do this effectively. Collaboration for Revit plus BIM 360 Team is the solution. With Collaboration for Revit plus BIM 360 Team, project teams can work more effectively using a design process that brings everyone together in a single central workspace to collaborate and perform real-time design reviews. Collaboration for Revit plus BIM 360 Team allows both teams, consultants to clients, to be in the design loop from wherever they are. This access speeds review cycles so iterations can happen quicker and projects are delivered more efficiently. Using the Collaboration for Revit cloud service, designers from multiple firms or locations can model and communicate in real time within shared building information models hosted in the cloud. Integration with BIM 360 Team makes it easy for all stakeholders to instantly access a view of the latest model and project design information. While the core design teams are working in Revit, with Collaboration for Revit enabling the current authoring on the model, extended stakeholders use BIM 360 Team to access a view of the same model to review designs, provide markups, make suggestions, give approvals, or engage in secure real-time reviews. And they can access BIM 360 Team from whatever device is most convenient, desktop to laptop, to tablet to smartphone, making decisions together as a single design team from any location. Collaboration for Revit plus BIM 360 Team. It's how you enable collaboration with everyone on your team to design, review, iterate, and deliver great work together.
All right. So in essence, the A360 collaboration for Revit in conjunction with A360 BIM team gives you the ability to work in a centralized location, multiple people, multiple companies, multiple locations and environments at the same time. When we look at the approach of Revit in a typical work sharing environment, that's within a single local area environment. And when we are working with a collaborative approach outside the local area network and get into multiple office environments, we may introduce things like Revit Server or Dropbox or some other type of cloud-based service. And when we're working with A360 collaboration for Revit, your model actually lives in the cloud on Autodesk servers. And all of your entire project data will live there as well. And the way it kind of really approaches the workflow for collaboration for Revit is when you install the software, it actually installs a Revit Server Accelerator on every single workstation that you install C4R on. And it also helps with only using and working with the Delta changes and any local caches to that personal accelerator. And so the recycle refresh times for transferring the data back and forth from your workstation to the C4R model up in the cloud is much faster. And in essence, it gives us the ability to work with multiple firms, multiple locations, and multiple people in a single environment. There is a very powerful tool within the C4R software called the Communicator. And this is something that works independent of Revit if necessary, or works in conjunction with Revit, and it gives you the ability to do direct chatting, screenshot sharing, and team chat capability back and forth with anybody in the team for the project that you're in, and also for other projects that you have access to that you may not be directly accessing at that given moment in time. And there are tons of other features within this Communicator which we'll cover as well when we get into the software. Looking at the system requirements for A360 C4R, it is a subscription-based service, so you, number one, actually have to have access to the web on that workstation. For those of you who are Revit authoring end users, in other words, you are an end user who needs to use Revit, who needs to open up the Revit model, who needs to make changes to the Revit model and save the model, you are considered an author, a Revit author. And if that's the case, then there is a cost to you for that particular user, which is $800 per year per user. If you are a person on the team that is not a Revit authoring person, it does not cost you anything. All you need is access to that particular project hub from the team administrator, and you are in. And once you are in, depending on the level of rights that you have, you can see certain things or you cannot see certain aspects of the project. You need to make sure you're updated with the latest release of Revit. And when A360 C4R came out, this was way back in 2016. So 2016 R2 Update 4 was the minimum. And for the most part, a lot of our clients are already on 2017, so they're okay. You can also just use the Autodesk desktop app and download the A360 C4R add-in from that application, and it will download and install it in your Revit. It is an entitlement, so you need to make sure it is entitled on your subscription account, and you can always go to your contract manager of your company to verify that he or she can log into the company's Autodesk account and verify that C4R has been purchased and is assigned to that particular user. And obviously, you can always have call us Repro Products, and your account rep here can help you with that as well. Lastly, the workstation that you're running needs to run Revit. It needs to be able to handle Revit. Okay. Most critical thing is the graphics card. Really, this day and age, most workstations, everybody's already speccing at least an i7 3.0 processor or higher. They're already speccing 32 gigs of RAM or higher. And so really the bottleneck is the graphics card and maybe the bus speed on the motherboard. So if you're running a NVIDIA Quadro card, like a 4000 series or higher, you should be okay. If you're running a NVIDIA GeForce GTX gaming cards, you're going to have some issues with display representation and ghosting and transparency. That's it. Other than that, and then the hard drive. Make sure you have a solid state hard drive. The state of spinning hard drives this day and age, it really is getting to be cumbersome to use. If you're running a workstation with solid state drives, you'll notice a speed increase of probably 70–80% increase in speed. It's that much faster. And then obviously hard drive space. You need to have hard drive space. There are some obviously pros and cons to A360 collaboration for Revit. And the obvious benefits are any company, any domain, any end user, any location, any time in the world. That's a big plus. Okay. No IT infrastructure rework. That's also a big plus. If you don't have to have your IT network administrator have to go through and configure servers and Revit servers, configure firewalls, configure ports and things like that, that's a lot of IT infrastructure and headache that they don't have to touch. And then obviously being able to collaborate and communicate the design and the design intent and all the communication data to any stakeholder in the project. It doesn't have to be somebody who's knowledgeable in Revit. It could be the owner, it could be a sub-consultant, it could be a vendor. And they can have access to your project and you can let them see what you want them to see. There is obviously some negative aspects. You do need to have access to the web on that workstation. If you don't have access to the web on that workstation, you cannot get access to the hub and you cannot get access to your Revit model. And if you don't have web access, it's probably something to do with your backbone, and you just have to have IT go in and investigate. You do have to have your software on subscription, and it has to be maintained, and it has to show that you have C4R as a service that's listed in your Autodesk account. Obviously, another negative may be multiple discipline model communication, only if they're online within Revit. And then depending on the pipeline that you have at your office, maybe you're running a DSL connection or a slow cable modem connection. You may notice a little bit of lag time when it comes to saving to central. I have tested and ran C4R on my laptop at the office, and we have a 300 meg pipeline up and down. I've tested it at home with a 100 meg pipeline up and down. I've tested it on a cafe hotspot, Starbucks. I don't know what they're running, but it was running fine. And I think we tried it once on a 56K modem, and it worked, but it was slow, but it worked. But in essence, those are kind of the negative aspects of the A360 C4R. And so what I want to do right now is I want to open it up to any questions anybody has before I actually get into the software demonstration. If you have any questions, either vocally ask or put it in the chat window. And if I don't see anything in the next 5 minutes, we will jump into the software. So I have a question here, and it says, so when you see the latest version, does it mean Revit 2017? Yes, so when I'm talking about our presentation today, it is on Revit 2017 and C4R. I have done C4R presentations in 16 and 15 and 14, but I have to keep everything current. So if I understand the question correctly, you do have the ability and you can run A360 C4R for multiple versions of your Revit model, 17, 16, 15. Okay, I'm not sure about 14 because I haven't tested it in 14, but I would assume that you could. I'm just doing a lot of presentations and demonstrations on 15, 16, and 17. And that also leads to a question that was asked the last time I did this presentation, and the question was, what if you have an end user who has Revit 2017, 16, and 15 software installed on the same machine? Can they use all three to do their Revit work on all 3 Revit models, C4R models, coming from different hubs, projects, and different versions? Yes, you can. And the way to do that is to, from within the Revit software, open up the Revit model. So if I'm working on a Revit 2015 C4R model, I would open up Revit 2015 first, then click Open, and then browse to the C4R model of my choice. The C4R system will know that you are opening up and requesting to open up a Revit model from 15, so you cannot open up any other version of C4R model because it's a separate division or partition, if you will, on the server. And so that's kind of how they keep it in check, and so you don't accidentally try to open up an older Revit model from a higher level version of Revit. That's a good question. Anybody else have any other questions before I jump into the software? Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to end the PowerPoint presentation portion, and we will get into the actual software. For those also who are in our presentation today, to run this presentation, I have 2 Revits up and running. I have the main Revit software running on my main workstation, which is a Windows 7 Pro 64-bit, and this is the Revit that's up and running. I also have a second session of Revit running within a virtual environment using VirtualBox and Windows 7 Pro with Building Design Suite Ultimate 2017 installed. And the reason I have 2 different sessions running in 2 different virtual environments, if you will, is because I have to mimic 2 different users. So the main Revit that you see here, I am logged in as my company Autodesk account. In my virtual, I am logged in as my personal account. And so my company account icon looks like this, and my personal account icon looks like this. That's the way I can mimic 2 different users in this session, in this presentation, if you will. All right. So let's work off of. So let's go ahead and work off of the main Revit environment. And just FYI, I can still hear a lot of people's background noise. So if you do have a mic and you want to mute it, that'll help out a lot. So here I am in Revit. No worries. Take your time. Just try. I know the audio is whenever we do WebExes, there's always glitches here and there. But so I have a Revit model here that's open up. And this Revit model is an actual A360 C4R model. How do I know this?
Where is my headset?
If I go to R and I click Open and I open a project, you'll notice in the Open dialog box there is a BIM 360 team icon right here. And if you click it, it will give you access to your A360 C4R models. And I have multiple projects and models that I have access to. So I double-click the hub project that I want to work with. And then I select the file that I want, and I hit Open. It automatically opens the file, and this is what I see here. If I head to the Collaborate tab of the ribbon, under Manage Collaboration, you're going to see also that you have a Communicate panel. And this Communicate panel has the Communicator tool, which we talked about earlier in the PowerPoint presentation. And that is this tool right here. This floats outside independent of Revit. And you can actually run it without actually running Revit if you need to. And what it does is it gives you lots and lots of tools. It gives you a list of all of your projects, your contacts, any chatting you've had back and forth, and the timeline of data synchronization with the central model back and forth. You also have access to your account.
Just go jabber, jabber, jabber.
In here.
And keep going. Keep trying, y'all. And then you have a cogwheel setup button here that gives you some settings on how to display the communicator. You have 2 panels, Active Projects and All Projects. So the Active Project is the one that I'm in. The All Projects is the one that lists all the other projects I have access to if I need to jump into them as well. or if I need to chat with somebody within one of these projects, I can do so as well. This is the name of the hub project that I'm in. I can send an instant message to everybody in the team. I can send an email to everybody in the team. I can click this little cogwheel, and it will open up your browser, and it will take you directly to your A360 C4R hub. And I'm going to actually start from the home. And so here I am in my company's A360 C4R hub, but I'm also in the BIM 360 team hub. A little confusing. The best way to explain this is A360 C4R is the added functionality of Revit authoring on top of the BIM 360 team environment. The BIM 360 team environment is this entire window that you see here. It gives you access to all of the projects that you have access to, any ones that you have pinned down, all the ones that you own, any of the ones that you have been shared by others, and any that you have archived. Here are all the different types of C4R projects that I already have set up. The one we're working with is this one right here. If I need to, I can create a new project at any point in time by clicking Create Project. And I can give it a name, an image icon, and I click Create Project. And then I can start working with that particular project. I have a little panel here, tool panel, that looks a lot like the Communicator, how it pops open like this. And it gives you access to all the different activity that's been going on for all of the projects. So this is not just streaming any changed data for the current one that you're in, but any changed data for all of the projects that you have access to. We're going to go into our particular project for the demonstration, which is A360 C4R Demo 2017. Here is nothing more than a server that is on Autodesk's servers you have access to. You can create a new folder. You can upload files, folders, assemblies, and even from Dropbox. You can display the data via list or via grid view. And when for this one, I just created a whole bunch of different folders, ASK, CCD, so on and so forth. And I can click, for example, say schematic design stage and get into that folder. And I can see that I have other subfolders that I have created. And as I drill into that subfolder, I can see all the different files that I have uploaded. I can go ahead and use this tree here to jump back if I need to, or just hit the backspace. If I want to look at other different file types, I can look at them via whatever file types that I have up here. If I want to look at an actual Revit file that's on the hub, which is this one here, when I hover my mouse over it, you can see that it highlights and it has V2, and that's just to let me know that this is the second version of this Revit file that was uploaded to this project. I can share that file. I can download the file, so in other words, downloading a static version of the file. I can also move or delete it if I need to as well. If I click the file or any file, what ends up happening with the BIM 360 team A360 C4R is it opens up the A360 Universal Displayer, Viewer Displayer, and it shows you that particular file. And what you're looking at is a published, shared Revit file. This is not the actual Revit file that you are manipulating and modifying within Revit. That's different, and I'll explain a little later when we're in the software. But within this particular viewer, you have the ability to orbit, to pan, to walk, to change the camera angle positions. You can mark things up. You can add comments. You can hide or unhide the markers. You can turn on sectioning if you need to as well. You can explode the model if you ever need to explode the model. You can print. You can look at any property data information. You can go to the settings of this particular viewer as well. Any markups that you already have, you can click and it takes you directly to that static captured image of that particular markup, stair, platform, site, design change. And you can also click show and feed and it shows you that particular comment in the actual feed over here in the right-hand corner. You can also click any other comment and it shows you that particular markup as well. You can always head back to any subfolder. You can head back to any other file that you want to. And depending on the files that you're looking at and what you select, it will dictate how the viewer is going to behave and what is it going to display, and what capabilities you can or cannot do, because some file types you cannot mark up, some file types you just cannot see, and some file types you have limited manipulation capability, if you will. So I'm going to head back to our C4R, and it's very easy to create a new folder. You just click Create New Folder and give it a name. We call it whatever we want. We're going to say Crazy Folder for Today, and click Create. It creates the folder, and I can click into it, and I can upload any data that I want. I can use drag and drop, or I can click Upload. So if I click Upload and say Upload a file, it'll open up this window, and I pick any file that I want. So I'll go to my pictures, for example, and pick this and hit Open, and it gets pushed up there, and you're done. Again, depending on how fast your web connection speed, it may take a second or two. This one took 3 seconds roughly. And I can click it, and it will actually open up that image if it has to. Okay? So creating a file and uploading data is very, very easy to do. What else? You have a calendar tab here. If you click this, it takes you to a calendar that everybody has the ability to share and put different information. For example, things like I put in a work on changes, I put in a BIM 360 team weekly meeting invite and a design review meeting invite every Friday. So it's a nice, simple, basic calendar, but most people will use Outlook. You have your discussions tab here that if you click will take you to all of the stream of discussions that you have. And this looks a little strange because it looks like I'm talking to myself, because I kind of am when I'm replying back and forth. And then what else? Under the Details panel, it lists the actual file. It lists how many subfolders you have, what project type it is. It could be open, it could be closed, it could be private. If you are working on this particular project and you want to know when something changes and you want an alert to be given to you, click this button called Follow right here. And anything that changes will automatically be sent to you via email saying, hey, so-and-so did this, or so-and-so did that, or this updated, or this changed. It's kind of cool, but it can also be kind of annoying too. It lists all the project members, and I can click Invite, and I can invite anybody that I want, and I can specify what their role is. Once I send the email invite, all they have to do is click the link, and they're in. They don't actually have to have A360 C4R to jump into your hub. An example would be the owner of the project. The owner doesn't really care to buy Autodesk products. He just needs to get his junk done. So you send him an email invite, and he clicks the email invite, and he's into your hub. And all he's doing is just using a browser to look at all the data. Okay, great. You can also view and manage any members down here as well. It lists all the project members, any join requests that are still pending, and who they are, what their titles are, their company, and their roles, and you can get rid of them if you need to get rid of them, or you can invite more people if you need to. You have a search field here. You can search for anything you want, and within this particular project hub, and it will find it. You can click this icon here, and it will give you a list of all the history of what's going on. This will give you notification alerts. This gives you the help. And this is your icon for your account. And from an administrator standpoint, this is where you go to look at your account settings, your account information, your account settings, and the administration of your hub. Also, it lists other hubs you have access to. So for example, if I go into my account, it will go straight to my Autodesk account, and it will list who I am, all my credentials and things like that, and I can edit whatever I need to edit. If I click this one, Settings, it takes you to the settings of your hub, and it lists up showing the A360 drive data, all the hub names, who their roles are and statuses and things like that. If I go into the admin aspect of it, this gets into the actual administration of your hub, your main hub. And here I can actually edit the name. So when we first initially built this, we called this Repro Products A360 Collaboration for Revit Hub. I haven't had a chance to, but I will later change to say Repro Products A360 BIM Team or something like that, or whatever I want to call it. You can also specify contributor access as well here. and any team member invitations here. You can get to members and roles and list all the people who are in your particular hub and their statuses and when they joined, when was their last activity, and what their roles are. Any pending invitations and any sent invitations as well can be seen in this window. If I click Projects, it gives me access to all the different projects that I have, whether they're open or closed or archived. Okay, and you'll see the status levels here. No project ever disappears, by the way. If you decide to try to delete a project, it doesn't get deleted. It gets archived. Autodesk does this for security, and just in case you ever need it back again, you can pull it. Okay. And then you can also get access to your subscription and how many seats you have and modifying all that data. So let's head back to the BIM 360 team again. Now, if you noticed, where it says Team Repro Products A360 Collaboration for Revit, there's a little blue arrow. If I click this, I have access to that BIM 360 team, which is also C4R, but I have access to my A360 Drive data, which is a separate server with separate data. This is before C4R and BIM 360 came on board. So all of this data is also sitting here as well, and you can transfer data back and forth between the two different servers if you need to. You can also go to Design Graph. This is kind of interesting. This is good for those who are looking at your model from a design automation standpoint and looking at it from a manufacturing standpoint. So if I type in, say, for example, wall, it's going to find everything that has wall in all of the projects and hubs. It's kind of weird, but you can do this. You can kind of look at the data. Flip the card, yeah, flip the card, let's go. And so it lists that particular curtain wall glass is being used in all of these different files/views, if you will. And that's the design graph. So let's head back to the BIM 360 hub and back to here. I just want to make sure I cover everything from an administrator standpoint. And that's it. From an admin side, from the web-based interface side, that's it. It's very simple. It's very easy. Nothing complex to it. And now let's take a look at it from the Autodesk Revit side. See, here I am in Revit 2017 on my main laptop running Windows 7 Pro. And I have the C4R model open. I have work sets that I built, just architectural, structural. I have this one is set as the architectural is the one that I have control over right now. If I want to go through the process of making a design change, say the railing, and I can select the railing and edit that path, because I have access to and I have control over it, there's no problem for me to make any design changes like this. And I finish it. And then I save the file, and it saves the file locally. It's actually synchronizing to an encrypted local copy on your laptop, on my laptop, on your workstation. And it's not a file that you can just say file, browse to, and open, because it's made up of a whole bunch of database files. And if I hit Save to Central, it saves the data back up to the central model. It's actually, you can see it here, it says 360. And it goes back to that hub, and it goes back to that particular model. And I save that data. Because I have the latest version of Revit 2017.1, which is actually 0.1.1, open and installed, I get a Sync with Central progress box, and it lists what it's doing. If I jump over to my Communicator, it'll show me here Sync with Central is complete, 3:10 p.m., 3:10 p.m. So let me jump over to the virtual real fast and jump over to here, and Sync with Central 3:10 complete. I just did it. It shows it here. But my data doesn't show up. So if I head over to the coordinated view, I can see that my model still looks old. So I'll just hit Save to Central and let the changed data get pushed down. And again, because I have the latest installed, I can see my Sync with Central progress window. And because I'm running a virtual of Windows 7 Pro and BDSU with Revit in it, the processing of saving to Central and getting to the web and everything is a little slower. A lot of VM software does this. So this will take probably twice as long because I'm in a VM. But you notice how fast it was in the main operating system environment. Because this one is up and because I am active and running as the structural work set authoring person, I have no problems with authoring this slab here to adjust it. to fix it. And I can do so without a problem. This is no different than you working on a regular Revit model with work sets. And I save the file and I save back to central, hit OK, and if I look at my progress window, you're going to see that it's syncing, see? And it says that it's done. So if I jump back to my main Revit file, in my main Windows 7 Pro OS, and I hit Save to Central to get the changed data, it should show up quickly. And it's done. The window will pop away, and I'll see the change. Now, what if I want to make the change to the structural slab? I don't have ownership of it, but I can always, send a request. And this is, again, nothing different than working with Revit with work sets in any other fashion. And so if I head over to the virtual environment and over to Revit, and I can see that I have a editing request here. There's that editing request. I can grant that. And then if I head back to my main Revit, in a few seconds, it should pop up saying I have access to that. There you go. And it also highlights that location as well, see? So I now have the ability to modify this and then fix it or change it to whatever I want. Maybe I want to make it a curved for some reason. And, I'll clean up this here, clean this up, finish this, and then modify this as well. And clean this up and finish it. So I save my work, save it back to central. It saves the data. I can see the data getting saved. Okay. And again, if I jump back to my virtual and I hit save to central, I should get that changed data. And again, because I'm in a virtual environment, it takes a while for it to save just because it's processing through the network card and a bridge connection. But while it's doing that, let's head back to the main Revit from the OS and the Communicator, and let's look at this a little bit. So the Communicator has icons for your projects, your contacts, your chatting. So I can go in here and I can see the chat stream of all the chats if I need to. And even not just that project, but any other project that I have access to as well. And then obviously the Communicator gives me a list of what's going on synchronization-wise. If I want to say, if I double-click this particular user's icon here, I can start chatting with that user. I can say, hi, how are you today? Did you get my design changes for the slab? And it automatically pushes it there. And then back over here, I get my alert. And if I go over here to my Communicator, there's my message. And there you go. And so I can reply back by even sending an image if I want to. And I can go ahead and get an image. I don't know. I have a sample image here. And I hit enter, and it gets pushed. Or I can also capture the screen, a certain area like this, hit enter, and it gets pushed. So then back over here in my main Revit with my Communicator, I should see that information update automatically. So it's very easy to do this. And I can also click send a file. And I can send a particular file that I want to, say this one. And it sends the data up automatically within that Communicator, and the other end user in the virtual environment should see it right away. Now, in regards to the Communicator and the stuff that you're putting up here, be very careful. You cannot delete anything. You cannot alter anything. You can export the data. You can export out the chat history. Okay? But you cannot get rid of any of this stuff. So for those of you who are using C4R and using the Communicator, don't put any things in here like personal stuff or stuff that doesn't really isn't proper for an office environment, because it is going to get captured. Let's see what else. This one sends an instant message to everybody in the team. This one sends an email to everybody in the team. This click gives you access to the actual hub. And here's a list of all your contacts and frequent contacts. Here's your communication stream. So if I want to export out the chat history, I can click this and save it as a text file wherever I want. So let's save it under C, under temp, and we'll call it test chat. And I'll hit save. And if we open up that particular location, there's the stream. Now, it doesn't capture any images. It only captures the text back and forth. Okay, it only exports the texting information. It doesn't export any images. But at least it gives you something to work with. Okay? And then, covered that. And then if you need to, you can always tell other people within the communicator that you're busy, and your icon will go red, and so they know not to bother you. But if you leave it as available, then people can see it, and then they can chat with you if they need to chat with you on the current project or any other project as well. And then this is an icon that lists all the chats that you've had in the past, versus this one is a list of the chats that you're working with. If I need to save, if I need to get out of Revit, of the Revit file, I just get out of the Revit file like I normally do, and I relinquish all my control like I typically do, and I'm back out. Any Revit file that's a C4R file is going to have a little icon of a cloud in the lower right-hand corner here, okay? Whereas others won't have it. And then over here on the virtual side, we will. I have an issue with my saving here, which is not a big deal. We'll just kill it. And get back in if we need to. So that's a really quick, rough presentation on A360 C4R and the capabilities of what it is within the hub here, the project side on HTML-based, versus on the Revit side as an end user, and versus on Revit as an end user, as a second end user, and how to work with the data back and forth. Oh, almost forgot. Let me jump back into the model. You notice that when I open the file, I don't actually have to worry about opening up a local copy. I just open the file. The A360 C4R is already doing all of that for me. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay. Under the Collaborate tab, there's also a Manage Models panel. And in here, you have the ability to manage your cloud models. And it lists the Revit models you have access to and the projects you have access to. So I'll click that one. And you'll see it says A360 C4R.RVT. That's the file we're working with. And I can upload the latest edition. And I publish it. Now, because I'm publishing it, that's the information that is visible for others to see when they're in the hub. And it's really meant as a static snapshot for end users who don't have Revit and they just want to get an idea of what's going on with the project and where it stands, and if they need to make markups of it, they can. If I click Publish Settings, I can get into what is it publishing. You know, for example, Set 1 is publishing all of these views. That's it. And it's similar to the print dialog box and what options you have for printing. So same thing here, you're publishing those particular sheets or views. So if I say sheets in the set, I don't have any sheets in this set, obviously, so it's not going to list. But if I want to create sheets, I can go ahead and create a sheet. And we'll drag and drop a view onto a sheet. And then we'll go back to Publish Settings, and we'll say Sheets. Oh, because I have not saved, that's why. So I can't publish that unless I actually do the work and save the file. So save the file, save back to Central. And then if I go back here, I should see it. Let's go and manage that. Let's push that back up again. Oops, sheets in the model, my bad. Let's push that up real fast. And go back to, come on. And back to you, and sheets in the model. And pick that, and save and close, and publish that as well. So it's not terribly hard, as you can see. You just have to be a little careful. I'm moving kind of quick because I'm starting to run out of time on my presentation. So, what else? That's it, really. That's a really good rough intro on C4R and how it functions on a web-based home portal and within the Revit software. I'm going to leave it open right now to questions. You see, and I've noticed that whenever I update my line, it shows up the update in the Communicator, but not on A360 Hub. Is there a way to have A360 update automatically? Is only a manual update? So I have a question coming in here stating that an end user is already using C4R on a particular project, and that when they update the model, it shows the update in the Communicator, but not on the A360 Hub. Is there a way to have A360 update automatically, or is it only a manual upload? In this instance, for publishing, it is a manual upload. Because remember, the model and the stuff that you're looking at on the hub is for presentation and collaboration communication purposes. That is a non-Revit authoring functionality, if you will. So that you have to manually, excuse me, publish. So since I did several publishings already here in Revit, if I go back to my hub, then I should be able to go to schematic design stage, and now I see V4. See that? Because I uploaded it, published it twice, so now it shows V4. And if I go in here and I look at that, see, it's starting to upload and show that data as well. And also, you have several views and northeast, southwest, 3D views. And let's see, does my sheet show up yet? It might be a timing thing as well. Walls, doors, windows. So it looks like my sheet hasn't been updated yet. It's still processing this one. So I think it's just a matter of time for the information in the hub to update and synchronize properly for viewing and markup and editing. Good question. Other questions? Okay, so what I want to do is real quick is to let you guys know we at Repro Products actually have a course set up for A360 collaboration for Revit. I have a course that I created. It is 1 day long. First half of the day is for the admin side, so you're going to learn everything from this portal and how to do everything that I just showed you from an admin level. Then we have lunch, and then after lunch, the second half of the day is from the end user standpoint, so they understand what is C4R, how to install it, how to activate it and work with a particular model, how to push the model up to C4R to make it a C4R model, how to save the central, all the basics of that, and how to work with the Communicator. So, so there's a, if you need to, you can always contact us, and I can set up a training session with you guys. I got another question. Is there a way to put a keynote file on the hub and link it to the model? It seems you can only put the file on your local workstation. That's a good question. Let's head over to Annotate, Keynoting, Settings. It looks at this particular keynote file. If I browse and I try to point it to another keynote file, I cannot get access to the BIM 360 hub from here. There is an external resources. Nope, you cannot do it. if they put in the BIM 360 team link icon here, like they do when you do the open command here, if they give you this access here in the keynoting link, then you can do so. Okay, but because under keynoting, under settings, it's looking for it, and you can't point it to that. You just can't. So that's a good question. I can understand why you're asking the question. That way everybody works off of one keynote that's on the hub and not on each particular workstation. And that way the CAD BIM manager or IT network administrator doesn't have to put this keynote file on every single workstation or on a central server location. Any other questions? Well, this is good. I actually finished within the time frame. The last 2-3 times I did this, I actually ran it well over. So I tried to be cognizant of you guys' time. I know you guys are just as busy as I am. If there are any questions that you have on C4R or BIM 360 team or anything else, just contact Repro Products, ask for me. I can answer any questions you guys have. I'm going to leave this webinar up for another 10 minutes and stay online for another 10 minutes if anybody else wants to send any questions. Ali, you said you sent the question, but you don't, but I don't see them. Are you sending the questions via the chat? Don't do it through the Q&A because for some reason the Q&A portion of the WebEx is not functioning properly. So I'm having everybody send it via the chat window. That's much easier, much better. Plus with the Q&A, I can't respond directly from there, so it's a little strange. Let me pull up the Q&A window. Hang on a second. Sorry. Okay, Ali, I see your questions. Here we go. Can you drag and drop files into and out of the browser between the project and the Windows Explorer or Outlook email attachments? So you can drag files into the browser to upload the files to the hub. I do not think you can drag the files out to save as. You just have to select and click download. Is this included in Building Design Suite Premium? Do I need an account for each person that accesses this, or is it free? A360 C4R is a cloud-based service that is not tied to any software and it is not tied to any suite. So when you buy Building Design Suite Standard, Premium, or Ultimate, A360 C4R is not part of that package. So you need to get it separately. You just go ahead and let us know and we'll get the correct number of seats that you need set up. You do need, for the Revit authoring portion, that costs money. That's $800 per year per user. So if your team is, say, a 5-man team and 3 of them need Revit authoring capability, it will cost you $2,400 per year for the 3 users. The other 2 can just access it. Does the calendar invite go to email addresses when created? That's a good question. Let's go back to the hub. And the question is, if I go, let's go back to you. If I go to email invite, the question is, go to email addresses when created. Yes, so you're actually putting in the email address of the person that you need, and you click send invitation, and it will go directly to them. It bypasses your Microsoft Outlook. There's no need to use Outlook, if I understand the question correctly. What level of data security does A360 have? As far as I understand, all of these are Amazon 3 class servers, and Autodesk is very, very particular about network security. I don't know the full-on specifics because that's a completely different department. I would have to get in touch with our regional Autodesk representative to ask those types of security questions. And I'm pretty sure if you do a quick search on Google for security for A360 C4, I'm pretty sure Autodesk has got some kind of general public documentation on it. Can anyone with a link see the data, or do they have to have an invite? They need to have the invite to get in. Because that's the 2-level security, that I do know. Can access be controlled to file folders by individuals, by role, or by project? That's going to be, if I go here, it is by person, by role, not necessarily by folder or file or individual. It's individual by their role. That's the best way to explain it. So like, for example, here I'm project admin, or I'm a viewer. Okay, and so as that particular definition states, you can only do so many things. After deleting a project, is there any way to download all the data for a local archive at the end of the project? If you have already, again, you cannot delete any projects that are on the hub. You can archive them, and you can take them out of the archive. So when the typical procedure is, I work on a C4R project, I finish the entire project, it's all said and done, it's built, people are occupying the space, and you need to archive it for IT purposes. You can, at that point, before you archive it, just select everything and download it to wherever you need to download it and put it somewhere else. And then you can archive it. But again, it doesn't go away, so you can always have Autodesk retrieve the data if you ever mess up your backups or lose your backups. What is the default local file save location? There really isn't a default local file. It is. It's buried. It's if I can remember correctly, it's C users DTA app data Revit. It's in here. I have to find it again. It's a super long path to get to it, and they purposely did it that way because when you go there and you look at it, it doesn't say the name of the file .rvt. It's a whole bunch of encrypted files and folders and database files. It's not a local model that you can just grab and drag and drop and put somewhere else. Is it on your computer's drive or on the A360 platform? The main A360 C4R model is on the A360 hub up here on Autodesk servers. Your local cached encrypted Revit server accelerator quote-unquote local copy file is on your local machine, but you don't have to worry about that. Is there any way to see all new changes in order to control changes via comment approval for QA/QC? In other words, is there a way I can see anything that's changed via comment or approval for QA? Within the Revit model itself on the hub, there's nothing that I can go to that says show me the changed data. So if I'm looking at the model here in the viewer, there's nothing that says show me the changed data. Yeah, I can't do that. From the from the activities, you can see information changing and listing what's happened, but there's nothing like that. My best guess is you're trying to do like a compare or a contrast of changed data from an old Revit C4R model versus what's changed. I would have to dig into Autodesk and double check with them to see if there's a way to do something like that. I don't know if there is a way to do it. Let's see. Just from the Revit, native Revit, there's no way to compare. There is a compare file. There's a compare models tool under extensions. There is a feature within extensions for compare models here that you can use to open up and compare two models that are in the Revit file, that is in the Revit session. And you can compare the two and it'll show you the changed data between the two. But that's going to assume that you actually have to take the C4R model, open it up, grab an old C4R model of the same model, bring it down, open that up as well, and then do the compare. Or you can bring it down and save it as a different file type without linking it back to the hub, and then you can do the compare. So in that case, you can do that. So in that case, you can see changed data. So Ali, for your question, I would try that. That may work for what you want. I saw you invite people to the project, and you said I need to pay for seats. What's the difference? Okay, so when you go to invite people either through the Communicator or through the hub, when you go to invite people here, you're basically inviting them to get access to this hub and all of the files and folders that are in here based upon their usage rights, whether they're an admin or a viewer or some other user right level. When here it says I need to pay for seats, that's what your question is. What I'm talking about is if you are an end user who needs to use Revit and open up the Revit file, hang on, come on computer today. So if you are a Revit authoring end user, somebody who needs to open up Revit, who needs to get to here, who needs to get to this hub to get access to this file, that is when it costs you money. That's when that particular person needs to pay. And so again, let's say your office has a team of 10 people on a particular project, and of the 10 people, 4 of them need to be Revit authoring people. You only have to pay for those 4 people. All the other 6 people can still have access to everything on this hub, provided you give them the correct rights. They just can't go into Revit. They can't do this authoring and saving back to Central. Does that make sense? So then the question is, so I don't need a seat to add file folders or change the files. All others can see the model in the viewer. Correct. So you do not need to pay $800 per year for an end user who needs to access the hub to create files and folders and push up data. The Revit file itself is going to be the file that they cannot touch and cannot work with, in the sense of work with it from within the Revit software. They can work with the Revit file from the hub by going here and opening up this published model. This is a static model. This is not the actual C4R model that you see here. Does that make sense? Cool. So using the view, I can go in there and make a comment. Yep. Yep, exactly. Correct. So you can use the viewer to look at any file that you want to look at, and you can go ahead and you can comment on a point, say over here. Let's mark this up. Let's put in the cloud change over here, and I save it. And there's my markup. Or I can go over here under comments, and I can add that comment, you know, whatever comment I want. Say, check the wall join connection on red line 7. And then you can do this, because this is really just nothing more than marking up a static image, if you will. Okay. Let's see. And another question is, if only the architects have Revit, but the consultants or other collaborators only use AutoCAD, they don't need to buy Revit because they'll only have access to the Hub C4R as a viewer, correct? Yes, so the architect has the Revit software, so they can buy C4R and pay $800 a year per user to use Revit and author the Revit model. The consultants and other collaborators who are only using AutoCAD, then there's no point in them buying C4R and paying $800 a year. You just invite them to your hub, and they can have access to your hub and have access to all the files except the authoring Revit C4R model. They have access to the published static C4R model that we're playing with right here on the screen right now. And that's it. It's a good question. Any other questions? Oh, that's good. This is one of the better interactive webinars I've had in a while. So I know I ran way past the 3:30 mark, but I do want to say thank you, everybody, for attending. I hope you learned. I hope you had a lot of fun. If you have any questions whatsoever, shoot me an email or give me a call. And we will try to help you out as much as we can. And don't forget, I do a one-day training class. So it's not hard. Within 8 hours, I can teach you everything you need to know to be able to use the A360 C4R and the BIM 360 team site. Yeah. Will this be archived? This is being recorded now, and when we're all said and done, I'll stop the recording, and then shoot me an email so that to let me know, hey, I need the recording, and then I'll just shoot you the link to the recording because the recording will take, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour or something like that. But I can shoot it first thing in the morning to you guys, and that way you have this to work with and play with. I also have just, if you head over to our Repro Products site, under the blogs, there should be videos on the C4R presentation that I've done in the past. And so you can look at those too. Okay, well, I hope everybody has a very nice day. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to end the session. I'm just going to close out some of the applications that I don't need, and I'll just stick around for another 5-10 minutes if anybody has any other questions.